God. He's an everlasting Father. But I'm most excited this morning that he is a Prince of Peace. You gonna help me close this, won't you? William Shakespeare said, what's in a name that arose by any other name is still just as sweet. Well, let me tell you something, Mr. Shakespeare. There is something about a name. You gonna help me close this, won't you? His name is not just like any other name. His name is an extraordinary name. Because when you call the name Terry Anderson, nothing important is going to happen. When you call the name Barack Obama, nothing really good is going to happen. When you call the name Donald Trump, nothing really smart is going to happen. When you call the name Sylvester Turner, that's exciting, but nothing is going to happen. When you call the name Carlos Washington, he's just the associate pastor at Lily Grove Church, but nothing salvific is going to happen. When you call Adam's name, Abraham's name, Moses' name, Joshua's name, David's name, nothing really salvific is going to happen. But there is a name that's above every name. There is a name that every time I call it, it sounds like music in my ear. Is there anybody here ever had to call that name late in your midnight hour when your situation was beyond your control, when your children looked like they had lost their mind, when your family act like you didn't even raise them? You had to call on that name when they were giving you trouble on your job, when they were talking about you behind your back, when the devil thought he had you in a corner. You had to call on that name. Is there anybody here feel like helping me a minute? Call on that name. There's power in that name. There's healing in that name. There's forgiveness in that name. There's joy in that name. There's deliverance in that name. There's hope in that name. There's peace in that name. If you know him and you're not ashamed to testify, if he saved you and you don't care who's looking at you, if he brought you out and you don't mind testifying, come on, help me call that name. He's a rock in a weary land. He's a shelter in a time of storm. He's a friend when you're friendless, bread when you're hungry. Y'all know him, don't you? He's Adam's redeemer, Abel's vindicator, Abraham's sacrifice. He's Noah's ark. Y'all about to shout, and I haven't even called a name yet. He's a bridge over troubled water. He's a doctor in a sick room. He's a lawyer in a courtroom. You about to run all over this church, and I haven't even called his name yet. He is God's only son, Mary's baby boy, James and Jude's older brother, distinctive in supernatural capacity, superlative in sovereign majesty, exclusive in spiritual beauty, radiant in eternal splendor, matchless in supernal deity. He's the God of gods. He's the Prince of princes. He's the fairest of 10,000. He's the bright and the morning star. I haven't even called his name yet, but you know who I'm talking about. He was born in Bethlehem, reared in Nazareth. He died, didn't he die? But bright early Sunday morning, he got up from the grave. If you know who I'm talking about, if you're not ashamed to own him, why don't you grab somebody? Why don't you hug somebody? Ask them, do you know who he's talking about? then why don't you help me shout a minute? Why don't you help me praise him a minute? Jesus, Jesus, Jesus.